What it do, flight crew? FTC. Flight team stand up! We have using numbers to find the most difficult. Hold on now. I still ain't sober. It's October. Using numbers to find the most difficult NBA championship ever won. Now, it's funny because I was thinking about something like this not too long ago, especially seeing how the Lakers just won it very easily and had no competition going in. And this video happened to like stumble across, you know what I'm saying, on the recommended tab. I think a couple people linked me, you know what I'm saying, so we're finally into it. But something crossed my mind a couple of weeks ago. I was always thinking about, bro, like out of every NBA championship that's ever happened, like which has honestly been the most hardest one any NBA team has won, from their schedule, from the beginning of the year to who they faced in the playoffs, to if they had injuries, how they dealt with that. And I wanted to find out because I wanted to see like which the biggest credit of deserved finals championship trophy was deserved. So we're going to figure that one out. Using numbers to find most difficult, you know?
On Sunday night, the Los Angeles Lakers wrapped up
Jimmy Hyro
and grueling season with a championship. A storybook ending for LeBron, AD, and the Lakers organization. And now that the season is over, I wanted to take a deep dive into something that has been circulating over the last few days. This championship being one of the easiest to win in recent years. Not only did I crunch the numbers to find out if there was any truth to this claim, the result that I got is one you have to see to believe. With LeBron claiming his fourth ring, the tone among NBA fans hasn't changed much. Some people love to see it, others don't. This was about as predictable as it gets, hence the title of my last video. With many NBA fans saying this season was so different and unconventional that this particular championship should have an asterisk next to it. Or, as some call it, the Mickey Mouse Rec League Championship. But looking at this from an objective point of view, where does this championship run rank all time in terms of difficulty? What championship team had the hardest run to a title, and which championship team had the easiest run?
Yeah, let's see that.
I started this search for the ultimate championship run and quickly came across this Reddit post from 4 years ago. This Reddit user came up with a simple way of measuring the difficulty of a team's title run by using an advanced stat called the Simple Rating System, or SRS. This stat measures a team's margin of victory throughout the season adjusted for strength of schedule. Basically, this stat quantifies how good a team is. For example, this season the Bucks had the highest SRS in the entire league of 9.41, followed by the Clippers, Lakers, and Raptors.
Nice.
Just like any other stat, it has its flaws, but overall it's a great indicator of how great or terrible a team is. He then added up the total SRS values for every team that each championship team beat in the playoffs. For example, in 2017, the Warriors beat the Blazers, Jazz, Spurs, and Cavaliers. Add up the SRS scores for each of those teams, and the difficulty of the Warriors' 2017 championship run is 13.77. So now that we understand how this all works, here's the list of championship runs ranked in terms of difficulty, with the 1995 Rockets having the most difficult path to a championship and the 1987 Lakers having the easiest path to a championship.
Really? So they're saying the Mavericks 2011 had the easiest. The Rockets 95. So the green is for easy? Wait, hold on.
Here's the list of championship runs ranked in terms of difficulty, with the 1995 Rockets having the most difficult path to a championship and the 1987.
So green is difficult. The lower it is basically is the easiest. Okay. So the 87 Lakers had the easiest route to the championship. 87 Lakers. Michael Jordan came into the league like 85, right? That was like his second season. The Heat in 2013 had an easy route. The Bulls in 91 with the Jordan days, the Pistons in 90. They're saying the Warriors had semi-half a easy and hard route 2017. It's interesting. Well, 95 Rockets team had the hardest route to a championship. It's true. Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying? And then, Brett 11, Michael Jordan was the best Jordan in my opinion. Anybody that they want to argue with that, and they're dumb. I feel like the retro 11 Michael Jordan, not just because that's my favorite Jordans of all time, but I just feel like weighing in everything. He had his 3-pointer up there. He was at his prime peak of athleticism. Because beforehand he was just more of a mid-range shooter and driver and paint finisher. And then he also developed a post game too. His defense was better. And then the Rockets just somehow, I didn't even know the Rockets won the 95 championship. That had to be when was Jordan in baseball or what? Had to be, bro. I can't see the Rockets. Because they had a Olajuwon, a couple others.
Having the easiest path to a championship. This list only includes championships dating back to the 1984 season, since that is when the 16-team playoff system was introduced. So, with the last 37 championship teams listed, where do the 2020 Lakers land? All the way down at 35th.
Oh! I didn't even see that too. Bro, I was looking at the Lakers 87, bro. The Lakers, bro, literally had that. And it's crazy that I literally said this and people were just like, oh, no, they didn't. They had an easy route. Everything was challenging. We put in work. And I'm like, bro, congrats, you won the championship. But don't be sitting up here getting cocky on people acting like you put in, like, hardcore work. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that. And what do I, guess right? I didn't even guess right. It was just pure facts. You know what I'm saying? People can't handle the truth, bro. They are top 3 in all time, literally in their own time, their own easy route to a championship, bro. Bro.
Last 37 seasons, only 2 championship teams faced easier competition than the Lakers faced in this season's playoffs. In my last video, I talked about how the Lakers' path to a title this season was no easier than any other championship team.
Let's be for real, man. The Heat are a talented team, but if you put me against them in the finals, I'm winning a finals MVP, bro. They're just not a, all the way top tier, defensive team and just team in general. They don't have players that won't be able to stick me the proper way, bro. So it's just that. I can see why they're saying that. It was mad easy, so.
And shit. I literally could not have been more wrong. Not only was their path easy, it was nearly the easiest path of the last 37 seasons. But let's take a deeper look into some of these numbers. The first thing that jumped out at me was that the Shaq and Kobe Lakers three-peat featured 3 of the top 5 most difficult paths to a championship. That is unbelievable. And even crazier is that in 2001, the Lakers nearly swept the playoffs, going 15-1, while facing the second most difficult opponents in the process. So if you've ever wondered what team was the most dominant in the last 35 seasons, I think there is your answer. Now, if we highlight each decade, then we can see which 10-year span featured the most difficult runs to a championship. And for the most part, each decade had similar levels of difficulty, except the 80s. But this was because for most of the 80s, the league only had 23 teams, which meant a 16-team playoff format featured many teams with losing records. Simply put, the league was still good, but it was super top-heavy with bad teams making the playoffs. With that being said, it's still shocking just how easy it was to get deep into the playoffs in the 80s. So, you know how the NBA has been a bit one-sided throughout recent history in terms of talent level in each conference? Well, this next graphic highlights just that. When graphing the most difficult paths to a championship using SRS scores on the y-axis, you can see that the West has won 4 of the 5 toughest championships since 1984. The West has also won 12 of the 20 most difficult titles in the last 37 seasons.
Wow.
4 of those 8 titles from the East coming at the hands of Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Here are Michael Jordan's 6 titles. Here are Kobe's 5 championships, every single one of them having a very high degree of difficulty. And here are LeBron's 4 championships.
Oh man, so just right then and there, it just highlighted LeBron's championship. It just shows that he's had an easier path to just getting championships overall, bro. And this is the things that I've always been saying, and people get mad at what I say, bro. It's just plain facts, bro. Let's be honest, if LeBron played in Jordan's time in the 90s and all that stuff where you were actually allowed to fucking damn near scrap on the court and have hard fouls without getting fined $250K and, all types of things, bro, it's just, bro, I don't think he would have lasted, bro, to be honest with you, bro. It was a very, very mentally strong survival of the fittest back then with the NBA, and people would just sit up here and be like, oh, you sound like one of those people that, tell their stories of how it is going to school back in the day and this and that in like the 40s and 50s and exaggerated, and it was like huge weather, all that type of, you know what I'm talking about, that meme shit. But bro, like, it's facts, bro, because like just telling from like what he deals with from players trying to get in his head nowadays today, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is facts, bro. But I mean, at the end of the day, he has a ring, so it's half credit at least. So
now, strictly
Curry's still
considering
better.
how challenging each of these championship runs were, which collection of championships looks more impressive? At face value, Kobe's rings are easily the greatest collection of tough titles in the modern NBA. Now consider the fact that Mike and LeBron received Finals MVP in every one of their championship seasons, and Kobe won the award just 2 out of 5 times. And for some more reference, here are Magic Johnson's last 3 championships. I've said it before, and I cannot stress this enough. Not every championship is built the same. And when you start considering other variables like who did they play with, was there any significant injuries, and how well did they play in the finals, you begin to see just how ridiculous it is to base the foundation of your GOAT debate on purely how many rings a player has. Most would agree that 5 rings beats 4. But what if the 5 rings were won on a relatively easy path, while the 4 were won on a more difficult path? And before we move on, I just want to point out that this era of the NBA, the 90s and early 2000s, was easily the most competitive time in basketball.
Hell yeah.
Just something to think about. So after seeing just how different each title run can be, one surprising aspect of this experiment that jumped out at me was the fact that the best 2 teams don't always end up in the finals. In fact, rarely do the best 2 teams end up in the finals.
The hell?
For example, in the 2001 playoffs, the Lakers faced off against the 76ers in the finals. This was possibly the biggest finals mismatch in recent history.
That's
but
facts,
NBA
man.
fans
Bro,
knew this at the
Iverson,
time.
man. Shout out to Iverson, bro.
However-
Just literally top 3 of all time, bro. Like, bro, he literally the best player on that team was Samuel Dallenberg, man. Like, 3 points per game, bro. Like, he literally was
Just
Iverson 1
how
against
big of a
5, bro.
mismatch this is absurd. On their path to the finals,
Let
the Lakers
Iverson
beat
had
the Blazers,
Embiid of
the
Joel or
Kings,
Simmons
and
of
the
Ben.
Spurs.
Like, bro.
All of these teams
It would've been
had
a sweep with
higher
the Sixers.
SRS score than the 76ers. Of course, this is a rather simple metric to grade how good a team is, but it is not a stretch to say that the Lakers faced better teams at every stage leading up to the finals than they did in the finals. In 2018, the Warriors beat the Spurs, the Pelicans, and the Rockets on their way to the finals to face the Cavs, each of these Western Conference teams being statistically better than the Cavaliers. So think to yourself, how many players and teams have been eliminated before the finals that could have made the finals if they were just in a different conference? How many NBA championships were decided in the Western Conference? This is why, although I'm a certified LeBron fanboy, I don't put as much weight into his 10 finals appearances as other fans. I have to consider the fact that during those finals runs, the East was considerably worse than the West, and if LeBron and the Cavs were in the West, they
10
may not
finals
even saw the
appearances and only
finals.
4 rings?
So just how easy was the Lakers' path to a championship this season?
I was about to...
Quite frankly,
Did I hear that right?
It was historically easy. But the craziest part about all of this is that in 20 years, no one will care about the details. Just like how no one cares that 3 of Magic's 5 rings were won on easy paths. Just like how the 99 Spurs snagged a relatively easy ring during the most difficult era of the NBA. Just like how MJ's path to his first 2 rings were immensely easier than the path to his last 4. It doesn't matter because it doesn't change anything. Regardless of how you get it, a ring is still a ring. And although they aren't all built the same, they all shine just as bright. Hope you all enjoyed. And
What
as
y'all
always,
think, man?
Until next
As usual, man. Coming up below, that's right. Next, man, on the road to 3 million.